I'm Rob.
I'm E.
And I am also Rob.
What is your idea of luxury? Does it look like you? I was less than impressed by the Louvre. Mona Lisa don't bang up close. I'm Mo Vombo, Lady Pink Face too. And then for La Sade, I do. Kimberly Jones is more beautiful. If you want to know the truth, keep in mind I'm from New York City, bitch. Is that the best you can do? The effort was cute. I give you that much. Cookie in my Dutch. Pussy is my lunch. My styling is luxe. My palace is lush. My aura's awesome like it was drawn from Kahende Wiley brush. I sold art to niggas who sold drugs to give me some gold fronts when I was just 15. With the 555 sold for a hoodie. Down the street got a tee from Supreme. That's cool, but that was high school. Gotta move on to new things. Fading the wealth of my boo thing. Pure more sport, pure boss moving. Staring on waves in Costa Rica. Sails catch wind like it grew wings. On the Autobahn flying through lanes. New scenery and making mood change. New energy and make it do things. Little greenery, a little douce. New day, new getaway, new plane. New plan, new way.
You gotta shine a light. Shine a light sublime. You gotta shine a light. Shine a light sublime.
Rob times 2 in the house. Rob Cave Jr. here with us. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We're here to talk about a lot of things, but mainly the new album, God Dose. Album was in large part produced by 88 Keys, who has, of course, produced for greats like Black Star and Mos Def and Beanie Siegel, J Live, Frank Ocean. He was involved in Lyricist Lounge. How did you end up linking with him for this project?
Mainly through friends we have in common. He hit me up on Instagram, I feel like 2019, the end of 2019. He was just looking to work. So he's, I don't know. It was always one of those things we see each other and be like, oh, we should work, we should do this, we should do that. And it never really happens. And I didn't really expect him to hit me up, but he hit me up. Actually, he put up a status, I think, where he was looking to work with people. And I saw the message that he's looking to work with people. So I'm like, I'm writing him a message trying to like intro myself. Like, hey, we know each other. We've met. And I know this person. I know that person. And while I'm writing a message to him, he sent me a message like, yo, you want to get in? So I was like, sure. He lived, I lived in Brooklyn at the time. He was in Jersey City. So I just hopped on a train and that was it. We started working that day.
Just like that.
Yep.
I really love the liner notes that you've written for God Dose.
Thank you.
I want to read a few lines that really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
You say, I'm not that religious nowadays, but I still believe in God in a sense. And this project is about God, the God I believe in, because I got to believe in something. I believe in the necessity of belief. I believe in myself. God Dose isn't about a supernatural being. It's about finding the deity in ourselves and each other. I believe in you. I really appreciated reading this because I relate to that sentiment so much.
Thank you.
And in this new belief system that you've established, it feels like you've been able to build your own church and congregation. You can hear that in your music.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's such a powerful thing. When did it feel like you were able to define what God and faith means to you? And how has that empowered you as an artist?
It's something that I've kind of been interested in for a long time, probably since I was in my late teens. I kind of went through a lot in my late teens. My parents passed away, like in real close succession to each other. And from there, I just started, I started looking into different religions and reading different religious texts. And it entertained me more than it, just different, reading. I read Bhagavad Gita and the Nuwabian stuff, like Malachi York stuff, like everything, I was like reading everything I could put my hands on. And it was like, to me, more, it was like very entertaining stories, it was like, I didn't really take it as like a kind of a life path or instructional booklet until one day I did read like an actual science fiction book that made more sense to me than actual religious books. And that book was Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler.
Yes.
When I read that, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Like, when I read like, more like, the Quran and stuff like that, I'd be like, okay, I can wrap my head around it. But the parable, like the religion in that just made
Mm,
sense. It wasn't about a deity. It was about how you interact with the world,
Right.
the religion in that book. So that's kind of what I adopted and kind of started building on about, my own kind of worldview and how I react to things and how I navigate.
yeah. Yeah, 1,000% to the Parable series. Like
Yeah.
that shit changed my life. No, like no bullshit. Yeah, so I definitely appreciate that. I too grew up in the church, and when I think about the Black church specifically, community is one of the first words that comes to mind.
Yeah.
No, historically, it's been such a huge aspect of the structure. It feels like
Mhm.
it's drastically changed though over the last several decades, and it doesn't
Yeah.
seem as present as it once was, especially when I think about how much this community intentionally gathered to support each other in the fight for freedom. The way that you've defined God Dose and the structure around the project feels like a call to action to me. So when you were creating this album, was it your intention to remind folks about the importance of community by showing them how you've benefited from it?
Kinda, in a lot of ways, it's just to remind myself when I listen back to it what I need to keep in mind. You know what I mean? Because I was going through a lot at the time, and I was really like leaning on my community and learning how to lean on my community. Like I have a friend who Deshaun, he said something to me as in like you have to give your opportunity, you got to give your community the opportunity to be a community. You know what I mean? I always try to be the person that people look towards, but not, I would be embarrassed to ask for help or something like that. And he's like, that's not being a good community member if you're, not being helped and, you're only looking to help. So it was one of those things. And then, yeah, I started going to like, he led like a men's wellness group so we could like talk amongst each other and stuff like that. And it took a lot from those groups to like, inform kind of the things I said.
Mm.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the music on the project on God Dose. The opening track is called Sublime.
Mm-hmm.
I found the hook on this track to be, in fact, sublime. It gets stuck in my head. Like I find myself like walking around humming it. Who is the vocalist on the
It's
hook?
Cyber Young.
Okay. And did they write the hook or did you write it?
The hook was written between me, Siren, and Don Will. Pretty much when I first got the batch of beats from '88, I called Siren and asked him to be on it, and Don Will just came to hang out, and we were kind of building on what the hook would be. And Don Will came up with the idea. He's like, you're doing a lot in the verses, like the flow is changing up a lot, and you're doing a lot of cadences and double meanings. The hook should be like the complete opposite. It's like the most simplest thing. And when I originally called Siren, I wanted some like kind of 70s pimpish kind of sound on the hook. But he's like, nah, it needs to be like just really like simple as hell. You know what I mean? Like 2 or 3 words. Don't go crazy. And I'm like, all right. And then Siren was like, oh, I got it. And he went and he did it. And I just added little ad-libs here and there. And that was how it was written. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that was like the first one we did.
Yeah, it's they gave you some sound advice, I think, because the first time I listened to it, I wasn't really expecting it. And when it hit, I was like, oh man, this is so nice. It's like a nice little break from everything else going on in the song.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that was the idea.
Stay True is its second song on God Dose, and it features the late Dallas Penn. I
Yeah.
just want to take a moment to remember him. It seems like y'all were close and
Very.
friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to acknowledge that.
For sure.
On this track, it feels like you're not only remembering and honoring your friend, but you're also holding space for other important figures and moments in hip hop that have had a big impact on you.
Okay.
Do you think that uplifting the roots of the culture in this way are what helped to shape its future?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what me and Dallas would talk about a lot is how like hip hop is one of the first genres that has been protected by its people. We won't let it be co-opted, as much as people try to, and it might be a star here and there that comes out and gets popular, but hip hop, we celebrate the history of it. There's holidays, the anniversaries and all that. Even if it is kind of corporatized, it's recognized. There's no rock and roll day where people are giving, you know, Chuck Berry and Thornton awards and stuff like that. They're not giving their flowers the way, and even like, other genres. There might be people like really devotees who know things like that, but the general populace doesn't. And I think hip hop has done a really good job of that. And there's still a lot of work that should be done, even with that, So a lot of me and Dallas did was just to make sure, like Sublime, the reason I put that his intro after Sublime, because he loved that song so much. Like he was talking to me about how necessary it was to just say that, just to make sure we always give each other our own flowers. We don't need to have to wait for somebody to say, yo, I made this. We got to stand up and say it,
Yeah.
And a lot of, like, he had this thing called Fresh to Debt, which is like DEPT, debt, So it's like pretty much these large corporations and things like that sell our shit back to us. Like they take it, shine it up and sell it right back to us. So like, we got to remember, like, if we remember that it came from us in the first place, we got to, we have that value that we're trying to grab from them. It's already in. Sorry, Stay True was actually the last song I did for the project. I did that right after he passed because like I actually have more of his vocals that I'm gonna probably put into the album before it's released, like in the next couple of days, just because I can't do anything else with it. Like I would call him and like tell him I need like a skit or something, like a real quick intro, but he'll send me like 5-10 minutes just ranting on different subjects. And I'm like, okay, this goes there. This one, and then he might make a song and another one goes perfect with another song, but I don't want to like put too much. I'm trying to be respectful. And also, I don't want to do it to the point where I don't want to listen to my own shit because it's sad or whatever. You know what I mean? It's kind of bittersweet. So I want to do it respectfully to him and his family, his wife, and make sure, I don't want to seem like I'm trying to come up off my man going, So it's just a respectful amount that I'm not ODing on it, So that's what I'm trying to figure out, which songs and how I'm probably going to put 2 or 3 more in an outro. And then that'll be it. I'll send you another link in a day or two before it comes.
Okay.
But he was just so funny. He always said like these funny things that, I didn't have to give him any real direction. And he would like, he would send it to me. Like he would say something and he would know it was good. He'd say it like 3 or 4 more times just so he'd get a good one. And sometimes I spice them up and put them back together, like, but it would be like the same thing over and over again, just so I can get a good, a good sound bite. But he had to, wherewithal to do that. He wouldn't just call and say something and that'd be it. He'd be like, all right, let me say it 5 more times. And, so I had to figure out which one's the best ones to use and all that.
Yeah. I've appreciated hearing him on this and other projects that you've done.
Yeah.
You're really giving space to some legendary folks on this project. We've been talking about Dallas Penn. Free Everybody is another track on the album. It features Sandra Isidore, who is known for her activism and her influence on Fela Kuti. How did you end up getting her involved in this?
That I met her through my brother, actually, my big brother. When I came out here in March, my brother introduced me to her. My brother is like the coolest person I've ever met in my life. He's like a very do you remember like back in the day he used to be like a stuntman. He grew up in LA, I grew up in New York, so he's like my half brother, but I always grew up like, looking up to him. He used to be a stuntman. He was on I remember when I was a little kid, he won American Gladiator. I don't know if you remember American Gladiator.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was
hell
on the
yeah.
show and won. Like, so like that's how like cool my brother is. He's like when I was like 5 years old, I watched cartoons and him. So like, so it kind of didn't surprise me when he was out here. He lives in China now, but he was out here at the same time I was. And he's like, since we're both out here, let's just link up. And he took me to her house, her and her husband Byron, who's actually mixed this project. And we just got to chatting. And we developed a friendship, and then we did the song. It was kind of like that was one of those beats. I had that beat for a while. I did beat a long time ago, and I had done different types of songs to it. But when she got on it, she really like just brought it home. It was kind of. I think it was. I couldn't never finish it because I was just waiting for her to get on it. One of those things.
I know none of us are free. We're living an illusion.
Welcome to the last era of a dying breed.
Yes.
The light you've been following has been shining from we.
Bless.
If life on the bottom is all my eyes see, then the mind atrophies as some kind of disease.
Stress.
So I stay medicated as high as I can be.
Yes.
And stay in different flavors as fly as I can be.
Bless.
And I'ma tell you like Fannie Lou told me, ain't nobody free till everybody free.
I'm free to be who you wanna be. Free to be just who you wanna be. But then there are those who never really knew love.
I was listening to Free Everybody and thinking about freedom and how it affects so many aspects of our life, especially when you don't have it. I have a friend who's an artist and he's been going through a rough time right now. He's been pretty open about it. So I just wanted to read part of a post he had on Instagram the other day. He said, I see so much of my peers put into this shit, and when I know they're just as fucked up as me financially, it breaks my heart for real. No one expects to live off this, but the way I see it, we should, based on how much of our souls go into this shit. I see us transmute the negative energy of a room full of people into sweat and screams night after night, then wake up the next day to work multiple gigs, hustle and sell our bodies just to be fucked up every month to the point where it seems hopeless. I imagine as an artist, there might have been times where this felt relatable. Being in this position where you've given so much of yourself through your music and have gotten little back in return. So my question is, in this context, what does freedom look like for you as an artist? And what do you do when it feels like you've lost it?
Freedom as an artist, I guess looks like, I understand we live in like, capitalist society and everything, but I think freedom as an artist is when you create to express rather than earn. Like as soon as you think about like who's gonna buy this or how am I gonna sell it before you actually start making it, then you just that's that's the cage. You know what I mean? That's not freedom. That's I like to make it and then figure out like who's this resonate with. How do I get it to them? Rather than like how to like otherwise it would have been I wouldn't make the music I make. I wouldn't say the things that I say because I could just like say the thing that's gonna get me money. I try to keep what Dallas Penn would call a steady Freddy, which is just a day job. You know what I mean? You gotta make your living separate, and that's something I also learned from like when I first got into music. I used to hang out. I was on the street scene for the Roots, and their business manager Sean G, who runs like Live Nation now, he would say like, be sure of what you want. You know what I mean? Like you can get money off of it, but you have to like. Don't get in it to make money and then complain about making art because it's not what it's about. You know what I mean? If you want to make art, keep your job. You just make sure you always have that. You can make whatever kind of art you want. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But if you need it, then it's going to change your relationship to it. And there were times where like, recently I forgot those lessons. You know what I mean? I was just like, I can go at this. I'm popular enough that I can just go at this real quick. And then the last time I felt like that, I feel like, I've got a good runway. I can actually just make the pivot to a full-time artist. And then the pandemic happens and nobody knows what to do. Everybody's trying to figure shit out. And I had to use my money that I had saved up working to just stay afloat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where a lot of these songs come from. Like, yo, don't get down. Like I've been knocked down before. I've gotten up again. You know what I mean? It's cool. Like I wrote a lot of those songs from a down place. But to remind myself that this ain't it, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I like to listen to an inspirational song, and sometimes it feels kind of hokey to make it, but like it doesn't. Like it doesn't feel like like sometimes as I'm making it, I'm like, oh, is this corny? It's just to say this, or is it like is it too happy or is it too positive? You don't want to be too like Teletubbies with it or nothing like that, or too altruistic or rose-colored glasses and stuff like that. Sure. But I balance that by saying there's kind of a lack of that, right? Like, unless you want to go straight into Christian rap, which, like I said, I'm not a Christian, but I want to say something that's uplifting. Yeah. So I got to find that balance and just do it. Like, And in general, as far as the balance between art and commerce and all that, I've in anything, in film, in music, in fashion, whatever. When it comes to art and commerce, there are the people. It's like someone comes along with an idea or something that's different, right? And it's successful when no one expects it to be. And then everybody else comes along and to just copy it and get as much as they can from it before the next person comes along to create the new trend. So if you want to become the person that creates the trend, you got to be cool with being the person that's ignored until that happens. I'm not trying to say I'm waiting for that to happen, or I want that to happen. But if it does, it won't be because I contorted myself to fit something else. You know what I mean? It'll come to me or it won't come to me. But to me, like as far as the music goes, as long as I'm making up for it to pay for itself, like I didn't lose a bunch of money on this record. Like, I get enough bread to break with the producer. I'm fine. You know what I mean? I paid 88 a lot for these beats, but like he gave me a huge, huge discount. He didn't give me no major label, budget. It was kind of like he was doing me a huge favor. So I'm like, all right, cool. If I break even on this, that's a success for me. And like I said, my own work helps me with my professional work too, because I use myself as just like my testing rep. I have an idea, I can't get somebody to pay me for it. I'll do it myself and say, see, I can do this for you. And then they'll be like, oh, and that's how I get like clients and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it kind of feeds, like it helps me. Like if I can't find work, I can use the music to make my own work, you know?
Hmm.
So that helps, It's like a self-driving thing. I don't have to sit around and wait for somebody to find some value. I can create my value and then put it out.
Well, you were talking about inspirational tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Last track on the project is called A Message To,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a message from men, black men
Right, A
specifically.
Message to the Black Man. Yes, that's what it's inspired by the book, A Message to the Black Man.
Yeah. And on the track, you're really challenging, amongst some other things, like the traditional definitions of masculinity. Uh,
Right.
and that just struck me as courageous. And I wondered if it felt risky to you at all.
It did, but at the very moment that it felt risky, you have to ask yourself why. Like, why is it risky to say this and not fuck these bitches? You know what I mean? Like it's like all types of shit, and it's not risky at all. Like it's not. I remember I'm old. I'm 44 years old, so I'm old enough to remember when NWA came out and Two Live Crew was a new act and people like that. They were new on the scene, and people were shocked to hear women called bitches. Now it's like controversial to say you're not. Like the money that we've done as a culture is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not trying, like I say in this song, like I know I'm not perfect and I'm not trying to be preachy. And if it is preachy, then fuck it. It's something that needs to be said. But I come from an era in hip hop where like Pac made Dear Mama and Keep Your Head Up and I Get Around. And nobody was like, oh, you can't make this, you made that. It was just like, is it a good song or not? Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, it was, when did it become a controversial thing to say that I respect you or like,
Yeah.
and not like, I was trying to very much be purposeful and not be like, even though I might have on a line or two, I didn't try to be like, oh, I love like respect them because of what they do for us, or like, it's trying to be as non-transactional about it. You know what I mean? Like the people, like love the people in your life like you love them, and that's it. You know what I mean? Don't because I wrote that during the pandemic when I was online and I seen a lot of like just discourse online with these so-called relationship experts, these high value man, red pill type of shit started infiltrating black men. Because usually I see this like the Joe Rogans and the bros and shit. And I started kind of seeing that co-opted by black guys. And I'm like, that's not for us. You know what I mean? Like we need community here. We can't. And on the other side too, when I see women do that stuff, like I don't need no man, stuff like that. It's like the same shit. This is all division. And nobody can do anything. Like we can't survive without each other. Like literally, we can't propagate as a species without each other. So we might as well get it together.
We've been talking about this, but for me, your work really feels like a motivating force. It often feels like you're spreading positivity and encouraging folks to hang on when shit is tough.
Mhm.
And I hear you say in this conversation that, this is about your experiences and like you've been down and you've come out of it and that's what you're talking about on your
Mhm.
projects. But I'm also wondering, are you intentionally using your voice to connect with people in this way? And do you want your music to be a resource to folks that are listening to it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope so. I'll say it wasn't always purposeful until like recently, probably till like the last one, the knowledge of the sun, is when I really was like, I tried to do it on purpose, but it wasn't something I did purposefully. It was just how it came out. And me personally, like I like to write songs about stuff, you know.
Mhm.
Um, when I first started rapping, I didn't think rappers wrote down songs, and I thought they just went into the booth, said some shit, said some cool shit, walked out. So I would never even write down songs unless it was a topic. Like if it was a topic, then I'm like, all right, it's a story. If it's a story, I'll write it down. Otherwise, I'm gonna just go and say some shit. And even now, like if I write like a song like Carpe Per Diem, which is like just a whole bunch of bars about dope shit, you know what I mean? Those I would usually save for like a freestyle if I was like a radio station or in a cipher. I was bust out them bars. But if I'm like recording a song, I'm paying my money to go into the studio to record a song, it's gonna be about some shit. Like, you know what I mean? And I can rap about street stuff. Like I'm from the 80s in Brooklyn, so I've been through street shit, but it's not like I wasn't that kid, you know what I mean? I wasn't a street dude. And like if I did a song rapping like I ran the streets, the first person to see me who knew me since I was 12 years old is gonna be like, nigga, what did you do at this age? You know what I mean? Like, get out of here with that shit. So I try to do a song where I don't gotta do that, but that person would still like it. Like the people I grew up with on the corners would still bump it, you
Mhm.
know, even if it is, conscious or whatever, they'll still bump it because they recognize, like I'm speaking to them, like Message to the Black Man is to them. It's not, I can't feel like I'm pandering for anybody else. I'm not talking to them. Like
Right.
all due respect to the both of y'all, I wasn't talking to y'all. You know what I mean? I was talking to people like I was talking to niggas at the barbershop and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's what I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So, like I said, like it may sound preachy, but maybe we need some preaching too at this moment. Like sometimes music isn't always supposed to be escapism, right? It's not always supposed to be, you know, a party, and it's good when it is. It can always be motivating, but sometimes it has to show you where you at before it can show you where it's trying to take you. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what like I said, Pac used to have both. You have to have like the same cat, like the same guy who made their mama may I get around, or may keep your head up, and keep your head up when I get around, or wonder why they call you a hoe or something. And artists used to be, I mean, I hate to sound like old school, used to, when I hate to say use words like used to, but well, I guess not the fuck used to. Artists should be able to be completely multifaceted as we are as people. I know we put out a product, but we are not products ourselves. I'm not a product. I can't, even though I contradict myself all the time because I'm a huge fan of many artists who can do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and to not get boring. That's a talent, but that I don't have that desire. You know what I mean? Some of my favorite artists, I don't want them to hear I don't want to hear MOP rap about nothing but robbing people. I don't want MOP to make that's just a black man. It's gonna be weird. You know what I mean? I want MOP. I want gun sounds. I want somebody punch in the face. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want when I went here. Listen to when I go to MOP concert, I'm getting on a mosh pit. I'm gonna throw somebody around. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be fun. I don't want to throw up my lighter at an MOP concert. So it's like, and at the same time, like I got to figure out who I want to be. The reason I used to have a rap name called Spec Boogie. I used to be Spec Boogie, and I changed that from Spec Boogie to Rob Cave because I used to I wanted to just be an artist. I didn't want to be a rapper who did this on the side. I just wanted to be. I make art. Sometimes it's going to be a drawing. Sometimes it's going to be a film. Sometimes it's going to be a song. But it's all going to come from the same place. So why compartmentalize it and say like, oh, like I'm ripping off a secret identity or something. Yeah.
Hmm.
I have no idea what the question was. What was I talking
I think you answered it. You answered it.
about? Okay.
And you kind of gave me a segue to a question that I wanted to ask anyway, which was about the name change. Like you said, you used to go by Spec Boogie. We've talked to some other folks who have gone through a name change. I have to imagine that it's not necessarily easy. And I feel like you take a big risk and like losing folks or getting lost maybe. But it seemed to mark a shift in your work. I think I read somewhere that one of the motivating factors was and you kind of just spoke to this, to like sort of be more personal in your art and things you were creating. And that leads us to a project like God Dose, and very personal project where you're talking about the God in you or the role God has played in your life. When you look back at the decision to change your name, like what would you say it has cost you and what have you gained from it?
What it cost me? I don't know what it cost me. I do think, I mean, I look at Spec Boogie and Rod Cave as very different artists. Spec Boogie was just more about the wordsmithing, you know what I mean? Just like a trickery in the metaphors and how many different ways I could flip a word and stuff like that. And I think I still have that skill set, but that's not the point. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, I guess I did lose some professional like momentum as far as like being known. But when at the time when I did it, I was very much relying on my day job, like my corporate job. So it wasn't like I was like, and that was kind of another shift. Like I wasn't really interested in playing the game as far as the music industry and trying to make my way there and through that. And at the time, things were picking up as far as like online stuff. People were making more strides and like just doing their own thing, you know. And so I felt confident that I could, just make my own way.
Well, you mentioned Knowledge of the Sun earlier, and I think we had a couple questions we wanted to ask you about the Sun tape, the mixtape that you made that kind of preceded Knowledge of the Sun. Such a fun project. I'm pleasantly surprised to see it's still up on Bandcamp. You talked about how you created that tape on mushrooms, something you hadn't done before.
Right?
And I mean, I think God Dose as a title might give me some clue as to the answer to this question, but I'm wondering what the experience that you had putting the Sun tape together, how did that change the way that you approach writing and making beats?
Sun Tape was really, yeah, that was the first time I ever recorded like that. I bought some mushrooms for my birthday, and I took them went to the museum. And then, like a couple days later, I just still had some, and it was the weekend. I had nothing else to do, so I'm just like, I'm just gonna see what it's like to record on mushrooms. And I ended up just recording a whole tape in one sitting. Like it's just just hours worth of music, and I recorded it. That was the first time I really recorded with like the punch-in method, where I was just like record a line and think a little bit, and then record another line, think a little bit, record another line. And with this one, yeah, it did. Like I knew, like I kind of like after I finished that, I knew like the next album would be called God Though. That's like I kind of came with the title during that session. And I haven't really adopted mushrooms into my recording process too much since then. But it was mainly like how I approached the music is something I carried. I think so the thing about mushrooms is not like the psychotropic drugs. Like I do mushrooms and weed. That's the only drugs I do. But I don't know if it's my the way I experience it is that like I kept in mind how it was affecting me, right? And so like I knowing like I'm just not like, oh wow, this mushrooms are making me feel this way about the song. I can just like, how can I feel that way? Like I can feel that way without the drug, but it just took the drug to make me realize I could approach it that way. So I didn't really need to go back and do shrooms again to approach it that way. I can just remember like, oh yeah, I can like record a line and think about how the next line feels rather than what's the best word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of helped me simplify and take it more into like the more like jazzy bluesy kind of thing because it's more about the best thing to say, not just the most, complex or the most, wildest metaphor. It would just be like, I can't really think of any lines from the tape right now. But yeah, it was more like just the approach to it became more intentional rather than technical, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of just broke those walls down. And so I'm not just like so like, rigid in my like the verses. Sometimes it'd be like a 4 bar verse, sometimes it'd be 30 bar, you know what I mean? Like verses and hooks, those things went out the window. Those things I don't really do those much anymore. Like on Everybody Free or Free Everybody, there's like a 12 bar verse and then like a 20 bar verse. And then the hooks are kind of like nebulous, and those things I wouldn't be really doing if I hadn't done the Sun tape.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to be corny, but I really feel elements of the sun when you're rhyming on here.
Oh,
There's warmth and brightness, and then there's also beams of light shining through the voices heard on here. It all feels like joy, namely black joy from beginning to end. We've established that you were high on mushrooms. But it sounds like, aside from that, like you had a clear direction in terms of where you were trying to go with this. So I'm wondering if that tone I just described was part of the plan originally.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, like a lot of these songs were created during the pandemic. Like me and 88 started working on it during the pandemic. So it was A, the pandemic, and B, just being the type of artist I am and I want to call attention to certain things. It's starting to like, and I did a project of my own beats called Books of the Living, Volume 1 during the pandemic. That was like the first time I did a project on my own beats. But when I listened back to it, it sounded just sad. Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, how do I still address these issues but not sound sad? So like instead of like, how do I celebrate the things that we go through rather than, because it is what defines us and what gives us our strength and resiliency. Those things should be celebrated. So I can just say that instead of saying, oh, it feels, instead of saying all these companies are just selling our own shit back to us. I'm saying you're fly already. Go ahead and shine. Look at them copying you. You know what I mean? So you can say the same thing, but in a different direction, just to make it a celebration instead of oppression all the time. You know? So that's pretty much it. I wanted to still call attention to the things, but puff your chest out instead of being, whipped upon.
Yeah, yeah. I got to shout out fam Timotep. He sent me this last
Brother.
summer.
Yeah.
He sent me a text. He was like, I really think you would like this project.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad that he did because I heard it at a time when I really needed to, right?
Mhm.
And so my first interaction with the project was, this like long format. So you recorded it, one track,
Mhm.
and that's how I interacted with the project initially. And I know that later on you dropped it, it was tracked, right?
Right.
And so, the liner notes on Bandcamp say that you wanted to have the listener have this experience of listening to a cassette tape where you
Mhm.
can't easily access individual songs when you originally dropped this.
Right.
I'm wondering if you think that format makes for a better, more interactive listening experience.
I don't know. I think maybe because just based off the audience response to it, I think that might have had one of the bigger responses. I mean, that might be a reason. I thought it was just because of the way it was created. It was so like it was just genuine, and I think that people resonated with that. But the format might as well make a huge difference. You're right. I didn't think about it. Yeah. I just did it
I,
because that's the way it was made. Like I really just like opened up I used the Adobe Audition and just like put all the beats on one layer and just wrapped
Mhm.
one line on the next layer, and then
I love that.
after the day after, I just called different people and asked for drops, and pretty much everybody said yeah. So that was fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like, I really was lost in it. I was
Thank you.
completely lost in it. So I really appreciated the way that it was originally because I just was, I mean, you're right. I wasn't distracted by going through track by track. It was just I pressed play and I was in it. And it was just a beautiful experience.
Thank you.
I need to ask you about a track on your project with Small Professor. The project was called Respect Wildlife.
Yep.
The track is called Bulls on Parade.
Yeah.
We're here in Philly. That track just might be the most Philly song, which is impressive because you're from Brooklyn, and maybe a bit embarrassing for Philly artists. But anyway, you explained at the top of that track that you went to school here for a while.
Yeah,
What was your experience like here in Philly?
I love Philly. I loved it. That was one of those things where I kind of just was there at the right time in my life because this was right after my parents had passed away and I was 18. And at that time, it's like, early 2000s, late 90s. So, there wasn't no like there wasn't much community help back then. Mental health for Black men it was man up. You're good. You're 18 already. Go get a job, pay some bills. So that was it. I went to Philly. I went to Philly because I got accepted to a school. That was the only school I got accepted to that wasn't in New York, and I wanted to leave just for a change of scenery. So I accepted to a bunch of art schools in New York, like Pratt and SVA and shit. And then I got in the Art Institute in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there, and like the first day I was there, I get a job with the Roots and at okplayer.com. And this is like the beginning of okplayer.com. Like the only people there there was 3 people there. It was Questlove, Angie, Doug. No, it's 4 people. Questlove, Angie, Doug, and Sean G. And that was it. And they taught me pretty much how to make a website, all that stuff. Like I went to school for art, but I learned way more there in Philly. And then during my time there, just hanging out with them, I got cool with Black Thought. And that's when I learned his personal history, which wasn't like he's talked about it more recently, but like back in the 90s, like back when like Things Fall Apart came out, this wasn't something that was known about him in his life. And so to learn that he had gone through something like very similar to me, but also when he was very young, like he was way younger than I was, and then he was like not only got through it, but he was thriving and like set an example that I can still thrive. Because I was like very low at that point. I was, I felt very alone and unseen. And not only did they showed me through example that you'll be fine. They gave me like responsibility and trusted me with it and gave me like, hey, do this and then walk away. And then not, hover. I'll just be like, oh shit, I got a deadline, I gotta meet it. And then that just let me, and then after I left there, I could, I had a like almost with the way the website grew and the culture that it helped create, it gave me like a path from a career. Like my day job started there as well as my musical career started there. Like everything started there. I remember like just my relationships and stuff, like how to operate and things like that. I remember, I didn't know anything about the music industry. Like as far as rapping goes, I had just been like, I used to go to open mics and stuff in New York, but it was like a fun thing to do. And I didn't really consider it as a career until I was hanging out with them, the Root System. And then like the Roots, they would be on tour all the time. And I would be in the office. In my office, the office for OK Player was downstairs from a recording studio, Larry Gold's recording studio upstairs. And so they would come and hang out in the studio upstairs, come down, hang out with me, go upstairs. And so I kind of just got familiar, like these are my boys now. So I started asking Questlove for beats. And he'd be like, yeah, sure, and then go out on the road. Come back 3 months later. So I'm like, yo, what's up with them beats, And then one day his business manager pulls me aside. I was like, you can't be asking motherfuckers for beats, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't have a name, you don't got a budget. These people make the living off of this. What are you doing, So I was like, oh, okay, my bad. Like, and then I'm thinking I'm in trouble. Oh, they're about to fire me. Oh, shit, I embarrassed myself. Hounding Questlove for beats. I'm just a fucking intern. I'm like getting sandwiches and shit. I'm not even on a paycheck yet. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking, oh, they're about to fucking fire me. So like one day, I was doing roadie work for them and helping Questlove unpack his drums from the tour bus. And he's like, okay, so on the 3rd song, Malik B's not here. You're going to do his part. I'm like, oh, shit, what? Like, whoa. Okay, you know what I mean? This is like this is like a huge, they were still doing big packed amphitheater type shows.
Yeah.
So like just, it's just like, it set a good precedent for my experience as far as like my professional experience in the music. So it was like something that just I always hold dear, and Philly is like, it's a small enough city where it kind of reminded me of Brooklyn. So I can get around. I can, I didn't get lost a lot and shit. I met people and people there were friendly. Everybody was cool. Yeah, it's just it was a very important time in my life that I always look back on fondly.
Yeah. The track is called Bulls on Parade.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but was some back and forth about how to spell bulls.
Yeah. I spelled the Bouls, and in some places I think it was autocorrected by somebody, and I can't get it fixed. It says bulls some places, like on some platforms, and some other platforms it's Boul. That's how I meant to spell it, but that's not my fault if it's spelled the other way.
Okay, all right. So that's right.
That wasn't my fault.
Bouls is the correct way to spell it. Yeah.
That's how I wanted to spell. But I think I'm not the one who submitted it to streaming, so I think I might have got autocorrected and they weren't paying attention.
Okay. All right. On Respect Wildlife, there's a track called Iron Horses. The video for that song is probably my favorite video of the past 5 years.
Oh wow.
I don't really watch music videos, but that's not to take anything away from this video. Honestly, I just don't have the attention span for it, for whatever. But I happen to see this one. Love the video. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I have fun making that one.
Yeah. There's a place I know where the bitches go, where they rob you for your dough and chill on the low in Southside. Queens. But if you say the Ave, people automatically know the path. You don't have to do the math in Southside. Queens. I knew this nigga named Jonathan, astonishing the way he used to handle the pill guard. Let me speak about the way he used to dribble off his knees and in the middle at the same time, guzzling the beer like a puzzle or a riddle. Discovering his path through the hoop, scoop, shot, tip at the backboard, oops. Son got hops, never knew he would've threw it. Cool nigga, when it came to school, he blew it. A scholar in acute niggerisms and metropolitans get tolerant. Yo, Donovan, hey, come around the block. Youngest of 3 sons, fucking with coupons and refunds, food stamps. Still he was a champ. Time to get loose for boots and kicks now. Fuck hoops, gotta impress the chicks now. His mama said, Donovan, why are you on the corner of living they got all through?
Every episode, we ask our guests to pick an album that is either a favorite, personal classic, something that's been influential, an album along those lines. And tonight we're talking about Pharoahe Monch, and we're talking about Internal Affairs. So, first question, Rob, why this album? Why are we talking about this album?
Well, one, I'm surprised it hasn't been done. Like I looked on your list of casts and I didn't see it discussed yet. So that was surprising. And Pharoahe Monch to me is like one of the best ever lyricists in hip hop. He's very, very influential to me. He was one of those people where I was like, when I used to think that rappers didn't write down their shit, I was like, this guy writes this stuff down. It's like, there's no way in the world he's writing rhymes, and I was just like, somebody gave me a CD when I first started rapping, and it was just like, oh yeah, you rap about, because I was very much in, I'm a nerd, like as far as like entertainment goes. I'm very into science fiction and Star Wars and Star Trek and Marvel comics and all this other shit. So I've always rapped about that type of stuff. So even when I was like in high school in the cypher on the lunch table, I would still be rapping about like, Star Wars or something like that. And somebody was like, yo, you might like this guy and this stuff. And he gave me the Organized Confusion CD. I went to the same high school as them. That was the thing. But they graduated before I got there. So they was like, yo, these guys used to go here. You should check them out. And I was like, all right. And I listened to it. And yeah, it blew me away. Just like like the way that he rhymes and the syllabic style where he rhymes syllables, not words, just syllables. It's just so intricate to me. And he was one of those people. I kind of debated on whether I was gonna rap. We were gonna discuss this one or another album I really liked. It was Cellar Dwellers, Rhymes and Realities. Because both Pharoahe Monch and those guys were like the people who let me know that, oh, you can rap about anything. Because before them, most people was like, oh, you can rap about being cool. Rap about being the man, rap about, getting the girl, rap about, driving the car or, whatever. You don't have to rap about gangster shit, but you can still rap about, fly shit or money or, but these guys come and they're rapping about, dreams and being fucking nerves in the body and being, you know what I mean? Like just, I'm a racist now and I'm a baby and I'm, like, what the fuck? You can rap about anything. Like any idea that comes to your head, you can make a rap about it. And that's like what they kind of gave me. So it's like that's I'm not really content rapping about just regular shit. Because why? You can rap about anything, right? Really anything. And we're not doing it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So that's what he gave me. And this is his solo. Like I said, it was not discussed before. I think it's almost it's very difficult. Like I tried to cut it down once I selected it, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be tough. But yeah, I just he's one of my favorites, and I think this is one of his best works. So why not?
Yeah. So it sounds like you were already on to Organized Confusion. So were you like waiting for this album to drop?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember the song, the Queens joint, the South Side.
Mm-hmm.
He was on Stretch and Bobbito like 4 or 5 years before this album came out, and he played that song. He's like, "Yeah, I'm working on some solo shit. We play some stuff," and he played that song and had it on tape. I had that tape for like 4 years straight. I ran that tape to the ground, and it popped one day. And when I was in the fucking record store and I turned it over and I saw that record was on there, I got so fucking happy I could hear that song again because I listened to that song. Like just everything about it was so good, and it's exactly the way it is on the album. So he didn't change anything. And this was like 4 years prior. He was on Bobbito and played it. So I just he freestyled and I had the freestyle and that song on the tape. And then it popped and I lost the whole thing.
Damn.
Man.
I was very excited for this album to come along and I was very happy that song was still on it.
Yeah. Do you remember what year that was?
The album came out.
The album?
No, that he was on Stretch and Bobbito.
Oh, this had to be like 97, 98, something like that. Okay. No, like 97, 96 maybe. It was a couple years because I was still listening to it. It was after 95, before 98. I put it like that.
I asked that because I bought a collection of Stretch and Bob episodes from this dude that just makes mixtapes. So I'm just like, damn, I gotta go through this and see if I can find that.
Well, the album Internal Affairs came out in 99, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It had to be like 90, what?
90. If you said
it was years, it wasn't like the next year after that. It was like the 2-3 years afterwards.
So 97 Project. Yeah, that tracks. He is I know people talk about, this act of studying MCs and like their technique and flow. He is somebody that always immediately comes to mind when I think about that stuff because he is just, it's like incredible. He's one of the first people that I've heard say, his flow was influenced by jazz. And then I listened to it after he said that. I was like, oh my God, you can, it's very like apparent. Like when you hear him, like it's very apparent that that's what he was influenced by. I mean, you could hear it clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much. That's staccato,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you, so you listened to him whenever you found Organized Confusion. I mean, you went to the same high school. Did you notice that about him right away? Like, did he immediately stand out to you when you heard him flow? Like, did you know that he just had this unique way of rhyming? Or did you have to sit with it for a little bit?
I think I had to sit with it for a little bit. He immediately came across as different, but as far as how,
yeah,
was because you also have to get past to me everything about him was different, right? Like everything about him when I first heard him was different and new. So to pick as to what the different thing was, that as far as his flow and stuff, that's a little bit more intricate and took more listens. The immediate thing was his voice and the subject matter and the not his flow, but like the non sequitur things he would do with his flow. Like he would be rapping and then like stretch a syllable for like half a bar type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, crazy shit.
Like he'd be like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
how do you do that?
Crazy.
Yeah, that is something that has always stuck out to me. Like his use of space. I was listening to the album today, and I don't remember which track it is, but he's talking about this like new government that he's going to form. It's me, Shablam, Mos, Ali, and it just fit perfectly. Like those names in that order, in his flow, just was like a perfect fit, and it made me think like, man, how long did he spend like trying to get that just right? Because I imagine either it's very easy or it takes a long time.
Right, right. I don't know what shit is. I've had a chance to talk to him about.
I wish I knew enough about like the different styles of poetry and just like English and how it's used, like to describe what he's doing. I can't, like, because I know that like if I was versed in that, I could be like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that with it, because you could hear it, like even without knowing like the
Yeah,
technical terms for that and the way that you are sort of the style of poetry that you're using, like you can hear what he's doing, like he's doing different things, and it's very technical. I just can't describe it like in a technical term.
yeah, absolutely. Very technical.
Simon Says was massive. Like at a time when I personally was not listening to as much radio, that song seemed to be everywhere, and it's forever like cemented in my memories of my senior year of high school. What was going on in New York at the time? Like, what was the reaction to that song?
Oh, it was huge. It was like the biggest song at one point. And it was like an interesting thing because I think it was almost a missed opportunity to balance the scales a bit. I think people felt like, at the time in New York on hip hop, there was a very much like flashy versus underground versus jiggy versus commercial versus da 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 da. And here comes a underground backpacky dude with the biggest song in the city. You know what I mean? So now what are you gonna say? You know what I mean? It's like he's he's the most wordy, intricate guy, but he's up there with Jay-Z and like he has the number one spot in the song on the radio and on the charts right now.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like threw all those excuses out the window, and it was really good to see. And the reason it didn't remain that is because kind of bad business in the background, like sample clearance and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it felt like the underground train riding backpack dudes got a chance to be number one for a little bit. It was nice.
Yeah, even on the remix, when
Right.
he got Redman and Method Man, Busta Rhymes on there. Like for me, he still has the best verse on the remix with these like big name dudes. It was an incredible time.
Yeah.
It was also in major movies. Like
Yeah, it's
that's
still
what
like
blew up.
it's licensed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in major movies like a couple of years late. Like I don't know when these came out. Like I was in high school, but like I remember it being in Save the Last Dance. It was
Mm.
in Charlie's Angels. Like it was
It's everywhere.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, true to form, like you were talking about, he can rap about anything. He's got these highly conceptual songs on this record. Official comes to mind. Hell with Cannabis. But then there's this song Rape that I feel like I just have to
Yeah, you gotta get rid of that one easy because like the song that you don't want to say the name of, you can chuck that one first. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's so problematic.
It is.
And it's funny, like I feel like I can kind of see maybe what he was trying to do. I almost wonder if he was like in his mind there was a way to connect it to a track like I Used to Love Her, where hip hop is.
Right. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But yeah, it seems to me just flat out bad idea. Something,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you just have to like cut out.
Yeah, that one. And then like on a couple songs later on Show No Mercy, he has his opening line is like the same. So I'm like, you had that line. You didn't need a whole song. Like it was a hot line.
Right.
He's like, something about raping the earth with the MPC 60 or something like that in the song with MOP. So I'm like, you just said that right there. You don't need a whole fucking song. I didn't need 3 minutes of that.
No. Yeah, because honestly, I'm like listening to that and I'm wondering about how you're moving. Like I mean, the song is it's not about an actual person, but I'm picturing an actual person because what are we talking about here? Like, and it's a shame because I don't like this song, but the way that it transitions into Simon Says is so good. Like I can't remember exactly what he says, but he was like, nobody fucks it like I do, or whatever he says, and it goes, and it's like dun dun dun. Like right after that is fucking perfect, but I just can't get past this whole song and the nature of it. I'm like, fuck, man, you ruined it.
Yeah, it's a problem when like the Apple Music write up just flat out says like skip this song. Like,
Yeah. I can't believe what. So I don't know this. What label did this drop on?
No, Rocket.
Ruckus?
Yeah.
Yeah, like so that was a. I'm just surprised that like it was. They were like, all right, fuck it.
It's also a slightly different time, you know, right?
That's true.
It was, but even still, man, I don't know. I mean, I guess like yeah. I mean, Nirvana was on a major release, and they had a song called "Rape Me," so
Right.
and that got passed. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Just it's slightly different time, different
yeah.
perspective. But that track aside, how did Pharoahe Monch and maybe internal affairs, like his ability to be conceptual, how did that impact you, or did it impact you in some way?
Oh, it was a huge impact. Just that his whole him and organized, like the like the second album, the Equinox album, I think is a bit slept on because on that one, the concepts kind of outdid the songs. You know what I mean? There was too concept forward, not too much song. And this one, he kind of balanced it out. Like there's still good songs, even though they're strange concepts. Even though the organized, what was it? The Equinox had some good songs on it, but to me, it was more the concept first. With this one, like it wasn't as like those concepts where it was like rape or like official. Official isn't like official isn't an allegory or a metaphor. It's just like how many sports references can I squeeze into a rhyme?
Right.
And like he does all the different types of concepts. You know what I mean? It's not just like I'm a baby, I'm a racist, I am a police officer, I am this one. This one is just like in some songs he says like he does that. In other songs it's more simple. Like the concepts kind of run the gamut. It's not like one kind of concept done over different ways.
Pharoahe's official like starter, hit harder than 4 green. Authentic, Nike, Adidas, and Sporting. The minute behind the back like making them all fiend. For my intricate ways to shake your whole team. Official, starter, hit harder than 4 green. No, authentic, Nike, Adidas, and Sporting. The minute behind the back like making them all fiend. For my intricate ways to break your whole team. My style makes the crowd say out like number 55 of the Chargers. I promise to you dodge a nigga like Pharoahe Monch. Somali stay calm by any means like Natron the bomb. Like Hail Mary's inflated with napalm. Rap pleases, deliver scripture similar to Jesus that you couldn't catch if you was Yvonne Rodriguez. So don't compete within the zone where the mind in it. I'm on the phone in the luxury box like George Steinbrenner, the owner. Making you get your diamond back like Arizona. Winning always Indian like Chief Nakahoma. Sock a nigga in his face. Pharoahe the sporting authority. Blacks attracted to my rap like gangs and sororities. You already fucked up when you stepped up the bat. Strike, strike, 2, 3. That's that. Pharoahe's official like starter, hit harder than 4 green. Authentic, Nike, Adidas, and Sporting. The minute behind the back like making them all fiend. For my intricate ways to break your whole team.
Yeah, it's what's coming to my mind right now actually is the Tonight Show, The Roots. I don't know if they still do this, but they used to have this segment where the crowd would just give Black Thought a word or like a phrase, and he would have to come up with a rhyme on the spot about that thing. Pharoahe Monch was doing this. I feel like you could do that. Like
Right.
it almost feels like he was in the studio and someone was like, "Yo, I dare you to make a song about fill in the blank." And
Just throwing some Sports Illustrated. It was like, fuck it. Chop knob block.
Were you Prince Poe fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The trajectory of their careers always was like something that I found interesting. I feel like Monch like went on and became really successful,
Mhm.
and I don't see Prince Poe doing a lot of stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
he does still, and I'm just not aware. But it's just interesting to me. Do you have thoughts on like why they're different?
No, I don't.
Do-
I've realized just growing up in the music industry and seeing how people move, like you never know why
Yeah.
someone doesn't, either he might not want to,
Yeah.
he might, it's a million different things. A lot of people just don't feel like it anymore. You know what I mean?
I
Like it's
feel
just
that.
not worth it.
Yeah.
I could freestyle with my friends and then going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to make any assumptions because for all I know, he just don't feel like it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I did. I remember I met them once. I met them once at a bar.
Oh, both of them.
Both of them, they were there together.
Mhm.
And there was like kind of a crowd forming around Pharoahe. And I'm like, yo, Prince Poe, like, you're right here. Like, he's like, yeah.
he's fucking
Hung
tight.
out for like that long. Because, he was just happy that I was only, like, this is around the time Simon Says is out. So it was like, yeah, we just kind of sitting by ourselves, minding his business. And I'm like, yeah, but you're Prince Poe, though.
Right. It's so funny. I saw Monch perform, maybe this was a month or two ago, with Smith and Wesson, and he was like, he did Simon Says, and he's like tore it up, and then I saw him right after that at a bar, and he was so reserved. It was so weird because he was so quiet. He was by himself. He like kept to himself, and he just like didn't really talk to anybody. I'm just like, this is so. It's just so like the juxtaposition was so fucking like crazy.
Well, it's another album, along the lines of De La, that went through as you mentioned earlier, like a big legal battle, but finally back on streaming. I see the records are out there online, so you can buy it.
Yeah,
which is a win for everybody. Rob, thanks for being here. Thanks for picking this album for us to talk about, and for setting aside the time for us.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, man, it's great. I like it. I'm a fan of the podcast, so
appreciate
look
that.
forward to being a part of it.
Yeah, thank you.
God Dose is out now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there anything you want folks to know about the album, where to get it, what to look out for?
It's $20. I was called by that. Was it that Rock Marciano?
Yeah.
He was like, you can't tell me my shit ain't worth a bag of weed, bro. Like, you know what I mean? That shit is
real.
fun. Like, nothing's under $20 now, because it was like, that's not too much, I don't think. And
no.
It was made like it's another reason it's called the God Dose, because this is actually two projects. I was working on a self-produced project, and I was working on a project with 88 Keys. And whenever I'll be like, oh, this album is missing this type of song, it'll be on the 88 Keys joint. And the 88 Keys joint, oh, it's missing this type of song, it'll be on the other joint. So I'm like, all right. And then I kind of at first didn't feel confident putting my beats on the same project as 88 Keys and stuff. Then I played the beats for Small Pro, and he was like, nah, man, do it. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do it. So that's really why it's called the God Dose, because it's like just two different albums together. And it's filling in each other's blanks, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is where I'm at, and I'm very proud of it. I felt like I stepped it up a bit in both the music and the rhymes and the beats, and the mixing is done. Shout out to Byron McNeish, who mixed and mastered the project, and Sandra Isidore, and just meeting with her and working with the people I worked with on this album. Everything was felt like leveled up a bit,
Yeah.
So
that's what's up. Best place to get it?
Bandcamp or robcavejr.com. It'll be on streaming next month. I'm putting it in streaming after the people who actually fuck with me get it. I want them to live with it for a bit before I put it on streaming.
Yeah. All right. Project is called God Dose. This was great conversation with Rob Cave Jr. And thanks for listening, y'all. This has been The Next Movement. Peace.
Rob Cave, what up? It's your boy DP, Dallas Penn. I see you out here, Rob, looking good. I see you out here shining. All right, Playboy, all right. If that's how you gonna do it, then you got to do it. Don't do it, and then don't do it. Because that ain't gonna be doing it.
First things first, long live Dallas Penn. Up there laughing, and what's after this with combating them. Till we dap again, I'll snap like these raps can bring back my friend. I'm about to send up all these rats I wish you'd rather been. Like these actors and these activists distracting us from shim. But they lacking in they action, ain't no combating them. I pray you get keeping heaven and don't let they asses in. I pray you get keeping heaven and can sneak my black ass in. I ain't even on no list, and the line is getting skipped. I'ma give these bandulu dudes bruises till then. Rest well in your well-deserved palace, king. Rest well in your well-deserved palace, king. Don't stop.
Oh, keep spitting that. Yo, Rob, keep spitting that. That's a bet, brother. That's a bet. Yo, Rob. For real, man. For real.
It don't stop till we do, don't start till we move. If you don't believe in God, God don't believe in you. Stay true.